So I'm 5 years old, sitting next to the piano, my father ferociously playing away. Brahms, Bach, Mozart. The music was lighting up my soul like a Christmas tree. My father was a child prodigy musician, and he would one day give up that path to pursue the path of law when his older brother, who was an attorney, showed him a large check he made. He went off that path, and I watched that decision eat at him later in his life. In 2005, when I graduated from Wayne State, I would find myself at a similar crossroads. I had gotten an acceptance to go to law school, which my family was happier about than I was, my first sign of trouble. And I could follow that path, or I could follow what was in my heart and follow music. I had just discovered a job called A&R, Artists and Repertoire. They're the person at a record label that's, they're the ones that find the new talent, sign it, and develop it. And when I found that job existed, I couldn't even believe it. People got paid to do that? I was like, whatever it takes, that's what I want to do with my life. I'd already gotten the ear from being raised on that amazing music my dad played, and I was going to right the wrong of him passing on his calling. So, in 2006, I packed my bags and I head for Los Angeles, California from Detroit, Michigan, with nothing in place but faith and a dream. True faith is not waiting to grow wings and then jumping. True faith is jumping first and trusting you're going to grow wings on the way down. And that's what I did. So I'm on my way on the freeway, and I had spent like a year prior, trying to get through to this record label I really want to work at, Interscope Records, and I got nowhere doing that. I mean, I remember even being hung up on once, being laughed at, saying, you got to know somebody in the building to get through here. So I remember crossing the freeway from basically when I was crossing Arizona into California. I got a hold of a temp who was filling in for somebody out sick in the A&R department. And she said, if you get me your resume by the end of the day, I know of a position opening down the hall. So I pull my car over immediately, find the nearest Kinko's, fax my resume through. This was 2006, so Kinko's. so I fax it through. And a few interviews later, I was in. I remember my first day at Interscope Records. I was in the lobby. It was beautiful. Sprawling artwork everywhere. And I was watching famous artists and executives come and go. I mean, this was a label that had artists like, Dr. Dre, Eminem, Lady Gaga, U2, no doubt, biggest artists in the business. And I was just in awe. This felt like hitting a full court shot, getting all net from the audience stands. I mean, really, it was surreal. So my first internship there was for the head of Rock A&R. And how it worked was you would do a 3-month internship, and if nothing opened up for you job-wise at the end of that, or another internship, you were phased out of the building. And 98% of people were phased out. So basically, what ended up happening was I spent a year there, and I bounced around from internship to internship, and then eventually I graduated to paid temp assignments. And, about a year and a half total of this, right? And I just knew I had to do whatever I could to stay in the building and build those relationships that could change my life and my career. And so eventually, one day, they did. And I met a man named Tony Ferguson. This guy was a senior A&R executive there who had signed No Doubt, aka Gwen Stefani, and he had spent time as Bruce Springsteen's manager. So he was a veteran. And he had gotten to know me through seeing me in the building, and also he saw me at UCLA where I'd been taking a music business class. I was really going in. I was music business classes, going to shows. I was all in. So I remember coming to this guy on my 27th birthday in 2007, asking him if he needed any help. And this is the funniest thing. So he hands me a big stack of demo CDs. Now, the demo CDs that he was giving me were basically sent in by people that just picked up a guitar yesterday. I mean, this was painful, right? And he handed me this demo bin, and he goes, happy birthday. He thought it was a joke, but it was no joke at all to me. I mean, I spent the entire weekend meticulously going through this music, logging every detail in, who it was from, artist name, everything. And I get it back to him, and basically he ends up missing about 3 months of work around this time. He got sick, which left him behind on his projects. One of those projects happened to be B.B. King's final studio album. So he asked me, he said, hey, next time he saw me in the building, I was temping. He said, how would you like to help me on the B.B. King project? And I eagerly said, yes, of course. And not long after that, I remember getting a text message from him saying, how would you like to help me on all my projects? And I was doing backflips, man. Like, that was it. This was the moment that I had been waiting for that entire time. And this was a mentor, this was a paid position in A&R at the biggest record label in the land. I mean, I'd finally arrived. So, for the next several years, I worked alongside Tony Ferguson, and he let me sit in on all his meetings, all his calls. We worked side to side on everything. And I just became like a sponge. People come in the office, I was just taking it all in. And this sacred time would really shape my professional career. And in that time, I also had the wherewithal to realize, you know, we were living in very volatile times in the music business, as some of you may know. We were dealing with illegal downloading, and we were transitioning from the CD to the MP3, you know, hemorrhaging money. And I saw all sorts of friends of mine get laid off every year. And I knew it was only a matter of time until it was my turn. So I had to find, you know, my life raft off the Titanic, right? So enter my side hustle, artist management. And so I went out and I found a white rapper named Wax. Now, he wasn't as good as Eminem, but he was pretty damn close as far as I was concerned. So basically, right, not long after that, I get let go from Interscope, and this becomes what I do. I begin utilizing the relationships I'd built in the building to further my new artist career. Now, around the same time, I was magically introduced to the music director of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. He was looking for a coordinator, right? So after a few interviews meeting with him, his name was Ricky Minor, and he was a former music director for American Idol. He was Whitney Houston and Christina Aguilera's music director. I mean, this is like a larger-than-life guy that I could sit and learn endless amounts from, right? So after a few interviews with him, I get the gig. So not long after I get this gig, you won't believe it, I got my very first artist wax, a multi-million-dollar deal with the most iconic hip-hop label ever built, Def Jam Records. I mean, I'm a Detroit boy, so I gotta throw this reference in. Things were clicking on all cylinders. I remember, you know, 5-year run in A&R Interscope Records, working for the music director of The Tonight Show with Jay Leno. My first ever client getting signed to a multi-million-dollar deal at Def Jam, all by the age of 30. And I'm like, you know, I'm feeling like Notorious B.I.G. The sky's the limit. But as they say, what goes up must come down, and come down it did. What happened next was a crash so spectacular, 20 Advil couldn't offset it. So I remember having a very vivid dream the day before getting a phone call from a manager who reached out to me who wanted to co-manage this artist wax with me. And in my dream, I was driving a really nice car in a very rough neighborhood, and there's a guy I ran into who was bullying me for my car, but he didn't have a gun, he didn't have a knife, he was just bullying me for my car, and in the dream, I ended up giving up the car. Now, this would be an ominous dream for what was to come, because that manager I would let in and I would partner with, and not long after that, he convinced the artists that they didn't need me anymore. I naively let the wolf in the door. I remember I was at the Tonight Show, working my shift, and found out we were going to meet the CEO of Def Jam Records. This was the day we were supposed to sign. And this meeting was going to go down at the nicest hotel in Beverly Hills. And this was everything I've been working for to that point. I mean, this was it. So I was getting my excuse ready at work, like, I'm not feeling too good. I got to get out of here. And about 2 hours before I was going to deliver this, I get a call from Wax. And he says, I want you to hang back at work. I'm going to do this meeting with the other manager. That felt like a knife in my throat. All the enthusiasm that had driven me in my career up to that point died on that phone call. And on Halloween 2010, 4 days after we signed that multi-million-dollar deal, I had not been able to get a hold of my artist, and he calls me up on Halloween saying, let's meet, and delivered the news. I was fired. On Halloween of all nights, right? I mean, it's very fitting, actually, now that I think about it. So basically, here I am now. Don't forget, I'm in my new job at the Tonight Show. There's a lot of responsibility there. So now I'm dealing with the fallout, right, of what I just worked so hard for slipping away, and I got to find a lawyer, you know, I got to do things. And so I'm dropping the ball like crazy at work. And Ricky Minor, my boss, was not too happy with me. But a ray of sunshine came. A friend of mine from Interscope said he would introduce me to one of the biggest music lawyers in all of music. This guy's name was Peter Paterno. He represents Dr. Dre, Metallica, Kanye, everybody, right? And I couldn't believe he wanted to talk to me about my case. So, spent weeks trying to get a hold of this guy. He's a busy guy. And finally, we make contact on like Wednesday afternoon, and I dropped the ball probably 10 times that day at work. And as I'm on the phone with Peter, the lawyer, in walks Ricky. His face is beet red, and he has smoke coming out of his ears. And he said, who you on the phone with? And Peter overheard him, luckily, and said, oh, is that Ricky? Tell him it was nice seeing him at Smokey Robinson's birthday party. So here I am, I'm like, all right, yes. I'm going to tell him this. It's going to calm the situation down. It didn't work like that. I said, Ricky, Peter says hi. It was nice seeing you at Smokey Robinson's birthday party. He said, who's Peter Paterno? Hang up the damn phone. Gulp. I was now skating on the thinnest ice possible at my new amazing job and had just lost my multi-million-dollar client. This was not the divinely guided path I was used to. Something was shifting. So about a week after this, as you can imagine, I got fired from the Tonight Show. So I am hurting with a capital H. And it takes me about a month to pick myself back up, right? And now I'm like, where am I gonna go? I'm gonna find another artist to manage. So I find a new kid. He's 20 years old. He plays like Hendrix. He writes like Lennon. Remember I told you I got the ear? And it didn't take me very long to get him a record deal with Warner Brothers. Okay, so this time I talked to my mentor from Interscope, and he said, rather than go out there as a new manager and be prey for bigger managers, why don't you let me introduce you to a friend of mine? He's an old school British manager. You know, he managed artists like Lionel Richie and the Rolling Stones. I said, all right, let's do that. That sounds good. So I meet up with this guy, and he's cut from a very different cloth. You know, he's like a sex, drugs, rock and roll type guy, this old British guy. Crazy. So I even remember not long after he came on board, the artist we were doing together had a show, and he was nervous about bringing some people out. And he said, Sam, is he going to do good? I said, I don't know, Andy. If you're worried, maybe just bring a few B-list people. And he's like, Sam, I don't know any B-list people. He was dead serious, just to give you an idea what kind of guy he was. So not long after him coming on board, probably about 4 or 5 months later, the same thing started to happen. I started being left out of communication, left out of decision making, and as you can guess, I was fired. This would happen 3 more times. I would find projects and spend years building, get all these artist deals, And eventually things would crumble after all the hard work. So basically, come to 2017, 11 years in, I've done all these things, and I find myself in the midst of a nervous breakdown. I am emotionally, spiritually, and financially ruined. Initially, all I could think of is how my artists and partners stabbed me in the back, how they wronged me, betrayed me, and how for all of my hard work and making dreams come true, I was treated like a piece of dirt. Only recently have I begun to realize, it was actually me that betrayed myself, because I kind of let my ego run riot, and I had become all about chasing that next accolade. I was never at peace in the present moment. I always had to achieve something to feel good about the present moment, which made life unbearable. I learned we can either be a host to God or a hostage to our ego. And I was very much a hostage to my ego for the last several years of my career. I also learned in life, it's not about what we achieve, but about who we become. These were very hard things to learn, and today I'm still coming out of this very dark chapter, and to be honest, I'm not quite sure what my next chapter is yet. But I do know one thing. I'm a stronger, wiser, more compassionate man today than I've ever been before in my life, and I owe that to the experiences that I've gone through. And as a little wink of validation from the universe, today marks, to the day, my father's 25th anniversary of his passing. And Wax, my first Def Jam artist, actually has a show in Detroit tonight. So anybody who's interested, come meet me after the show and let's go give him a big Detroit welcome. Thank you.
Samson Schulman.